President Vladimir Putin says that Russia is ready to use nuclear weapons if its sovereignty or independence is threatened. Today is Thursday, March 15th, 2024, and this is the Dunkley Report. President Vladimir Putin says that Russia is ready to use nuclear weapons if its sovereignty or independence is threatened. It was another blunt warning to the West just days before an election in which the Russian leader is all but certain to win another 6-year term. Putin has repeatedly talked about his readiness to use nuclear weapons since launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Putin was asked in an interview with Russian state television released early Wednesday if he has ever considered using battlefield nuclear weapons in Ukraine. He responded that there has been no need, but Putin said that Moscow is ready to use nuclear weapons in case of a threat to its sovereignty or independence. A pair of Ukrainian justice ministers in Washington this week say they are quite optimistic about the U.S. coming up with a way to financially support Ukraine. But lawmakers must agree on how to move forward. Speaking at a Wednesday press conference at his country's embassy, Ukrainian Minister of Justice Denis Malyuska called on U.S. lawmakers to pass a stalled supplemental funding proposal that would allot tens of billions of dollars in additional aid to Ukraine. Their request comes as Ukrainian units on the front lines are rationing munitions because funding has been exhausted. Malyuska called for lawmakers to put aside divisions and political disputes. South Africa's foreign minister says her country's citizens who fight in the Israeli armed forces or alongside them in Gaza will be arrested when they return home. Her comments deepen the rift between the nations after South Africa lay accusations of genocide against Israel at the United Nations top court. She made the comments earlier this week at a Palestinian solidarity event attended by officials from South Africa's ruling African National Congress Party. She also encouraged people to protest outside the embassies of what she called the 5 primary supporters of Israel and its military action in Gaza. Evangelicals have been among Israel's fiercest foreign supporters for years. This is particularly true in the United States, where their political influence has helped shape the Israel policy of recent Republican administrations. Since the Israel-Hamas war began 5 months ago, evangelicals have been visiting Israel in growing numbers to volunteer and help support the war effort. Tourism to Israel has plummeted since October. The tourism ministry says up to half of those who do visit now come with faith-based groups. Evangelicals believe Israel is key to an end-times prophecy that will bring about the return of the Christian Messiah. A proposal to install new leadership in Haiti appears to be crumbling as some political parties rejected the plan to create a presidential council that would manage the transition. The panel would be responsible for selecting an interim prime minister and a council of ministers who would attempt to chart a new path for the Caribbean country that has been overrun by gangs. The violence has closed schools and businesses and disrupted daily life across Haiti. Cubans are often divided on many issues. One religious icon unites them. The Virgin of Charity of Cobre is venerated by observant Catholics and followers of Afro-Cuban Santeria traditions, by Cubans on the island, immigrants, and those in exile. The foot-tall wooden statue is kept in an ivory-colored church with red domes in eastern Cuba, and an identical replica is worshipped by Cubans in Florida. A replica of the Virgin was smuggled to Miami by exiles 6 decades ago. They later built the National Shrine of Our Lady of Charity, just south of downtown. It remains a powerful symbol of unity, despite decades-old political divisions among Cubans. Vladimir Putin is poised to sweep to another 6-year term in this week's presidential election. Even though Russians are dying in Ukraine in a war that is grinding through its 3rd year, and his country is more isolated than ever. The all but certain outcome comes through his rigid control of Russia, established during his 24 years in power, the longest Kremlin tenure since Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. Putin has silenced virtually all dissent through harsh laws that impose heavy fines or prison terms on independent voices. Critics have succumbed to unexplained deaths or fled abroad. The ballot features 3 other token candidates who publicly support his policies. One religious icon unites Cubans, the Virgin of Charity of Cobre. The patron saint of the Caribbean island nation is venerated by observant Catholics and followers of Afro-Cuban Santeria traditions, by Cubans in exile and back home. The wooden statue of the Virgin Mary is kept in an ivory-colored church with red domes in a small town in eastern Cuba. An identical replica is worshipped by Cubans at Ermita de la Caridad Church in Miami, overlooking the ocean toward Cuba. Geert Wilders says he doesn't have the support of his prospective coalition partners to become the next Dutch Prime Minister. Wilders took to X, formerly Twitter, on Wednesday to say that, "I can only become Premier if all parties in the coalition support that. That wasn't the case." His comment comes after Dutch media reported that a breakthrough in coalition talks announced Tuesday night was that the leaders of all 4 parties involved in drawn-out coalition negotiations would remain in Parliament. That sets up the likelihood of some sort of technical cabinet made up of experts. Leonid Volkov, the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny's close associate and top strategist, has accused Russian President Vladimir Putin's henchmen of being behind a brutal attack that left him hospitalized in Lithuania's capital. He also vowed to not give up. Police said an assailant attacked Volkov on Tuesday as he arrived in a car at his Vilnius home, where he lives in exile. The attacker smashed one of his car's windows, sprayed tear gas into his eyes, and hit him with a hammer, police said. He was hospitalized, but later released. The 43-year-old vowed in a video posted Wednesday on Telegram not to give up. Today's news has been reported by the Associated Press. This has been the World News for Thursday, March 15th, 2024. Thanks again for joining us at the Dunkley Report.